If you're always distracted, you're easier to control. And the world knows this. That's why every screen, every scroll, every headline is designed to pull your attention. Not inform you, not empower you, but to own you. You're not just overstimulated. You're being kept numb. Numb to your potential. Numb to your voice. Numb to the life you're not questioning because your feed keeps you from thinking. You wake up and reach for your phone before you even check in with yourself. You've been trained to consume, react, compare, before you even breathe. And it's not random. It's not harmless. It's strategy. Because a distracted mind doesn't resist anything. Distraction isn't just a byproduct of modern life. It is the design. You weren't meant to think deeply. You were meant to scroll, to react, to stay plugged in, but disconnected from yourself. Because the more distracted you are, the less dangerous you become. You don't ask questions. You don't break patterns. You don't rebel. They feed you trends, microdramas, outrage headlines, fake urgency, all to keep you focused on nothing. And while you're busy arguing online, your attention, your most valuable currency, is being stolen in real time. Because a focused person can create. A distracted one just consumes. And consuming keeps the machine alive. They don't need to silence you. They just need to keep you busy. Busy chasing validation. Busy reacting to drama. Busy keeping up with a world that never slows down. And in that busyness, you lose track of time, of energy, of self. You start thinking urgency equals importance. You start thinking opinions are truth. You start mistaking noise for purpose. But deep down, something feels off. Because even after all the scrolling, all the updates, all the connectedness, you still feel empty. That's not by accident. That's the effect of a distracted life. You're full of input, but starving for meaning. And that hunger? It's the signal that your mind is trying to wake up. Silence used to scare you. Now you're starting to crave it. Because silence isn't empty, it's undiluted. It's where your real thoughts live. Not the ones fed to you, the ones that belong to you. But the system doesn't want you in silence. It wants you scrolling, arguing, reacting, losing yourself in a loop so loud you forget what stillness even feels like. But here's the truth. Distraction is how they keep you controlled. Focus is how you take your power back. Because when you focus, you start to notice patterns. You start to question systems. You start to realize you've been participating in your own disempowerment, voluntarily. And that realization, that's where control ends. Focus is rebellion. In a world that profits off your confusion, your clarity is a threat. You don't need to shout louder. You need to listen deeper. Because once you reclaim your attention, you start making choices again. Not reactions, not conditioned responses, but real, deliberate choices. You stop reaching for your phone out of habit. You stop engaging in things that drain you. You stop letting the world dictate what matters to you. And suddenly, you start remembering. You used to have ideas, dreams, stillness. You weren't always this scattered. You were trained into it. But now you're untraining. And every time you say no to the noise, you say yes to yourself. You don't need more motivation. You need deprogramming. Because what's draining you isn't your capacity. It's the constant mental clutter. The tabs always open. The thoughts that aren't even yours. The pressure to respond, perform, prove. But now you're unplugging. Not from life, from the lies. And what replaces the noise?
Stillness. At first it feels awkward, then it feels clean, then it feels like power. Because when you slow down, you start to see what actually deserves your energy. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing constant stimulation just to feel alive. And that's the shift. You go from being controlled to being conscious. And consciousness, that's freedom they can't sell you, so they never taught you how to find it. You were never lazy. You were overloaded with noise, with pressure, with priorities that were never yours to begin with. You kept trying to stay productive, but productivity without direction is just distraction with better branding. The world doesn't want you still. Stillness creates clarity, and clarity creates action they can't predict because it's coming from within. Once you wake up, you stop consuming blindly. You start creating. You start protecting your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You realize your focus is your force. Your attention is your asset. Your stillness, it's your shield. Because a conscious mind can't be manipulated. And that's the most dangerous kind of power there is. They gave you just enough comfort to keep you from questioning, just enough reward to keep you performing, but never enough space to actually think. Because thinking creates resistance. It slows you down. It makes you ask, why am I doing this? Who benefits if I stay distracted? What would I create if I wasn't constantly reacting? That's the real fear. Not that you'll fail, but that you'll wake up, that you'll unplug, that you'll reclaim your time, your thoughts, your direction. Because when you stop living for their system, you start building your own. Not for approval, not for attention, but for alignment, for clarity, for something they can't monetize, a life that's actually yours. This isn't about deleting your apps. It's about deleting the programming. You can't escape the world, but you can escape its grip. By choosing what you let in, by filtering what gets your energy, by asking every single day, does this serve me or just distract me? Because most of what you thought was important was just urgent to someone else. Now, your peace is intentional, your focus is protected, and your time, it's sacred, because you stopped giving it away for free. You stopped measuring your value by how much you respond, by how informed you are, by how busy you seem. You started measuring it by how aligned you feel. And that shift, that's the kind of rebellion they can't track. Because now, your life isn't reactive. It's designed. Now, you don't wake up in reaction. You wake up with intention. You don't consume to escape. You consume to learn. You don't scroll to forget. You move to remember. Remember who you are without the noise, without the pressure, without the constant pull to be everywhere but here. You're not obsessed with productivity anymore. You're obsessed with presence, because you've learned a focused mind can't be manipulated, a still mind can't be baited, and a conscious mind, it becomes immune to chaos. You no longer fear missing out, because you know the only thing worth not missing is yourself. And now that you found that, you protect it with everything. So here you are, not distracted, not desperate, not under anyone's thumb, just awake. You see the system now, not to fear it, but to stop feeding it. You choose your inputs, you direct your focus, you decide what matters, and in that choice, you take back the one thing they've tried to steal since the beginning, your awareness. Because once your mind is yours again, everything changes. You move different. You think different. You live different. And the world? It keeps spinning, keeps shouting, keeps trying to pull you back. But it can't. Not anymore. Not now that you've remembered what they hoped you'd forget. You were never powerless. You were just distracted.